Brand new body camera from the death investigation of Hulk Hogan.
So I'm like, is that Hulk Hogan?
What really happened in the hours before the wrestling legend died?
Said he was doing CPR for 8 minutes.
Okay.
He was not doing CPR for 8 minutes.
What makes you say that?
Because when I started CPR, I'm the one that broke his ribs.
Now,
brand new body camera footage. Death investigation. Hulk Hogan. Those 5 words should not belong in the same sentence, but they do. And what that footage captured in the minutes after one of professional wrestling's most recognizable figures stopped breathing raises questions that a natural death ruling alone does not fully answer. Not because the record is hidden, because the record is right there. And once you read it carefully, you cannot unread it. Here is the image this entire case turns on. Not a championship belt, not a headline. A pair of hands that arrived too late, pressing down on a chest that had already gone still, breaking ribs that 8 minutes of prior compression apparently never touched. That is the documented claim. That is where this story begins. Before we go deeper into what the records actually show, make sure you're subscribed to The Darkest Crimes, because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. On July 24th, 2025, Terry Bollea, known to the world as Hulk Hogan, stopped breathing inside his home in Clearwater, Florida. He had been recovering from surgery. He had round-the-clock care. He had a home health aide, an occupational therapist, and his wife Sky in the house. By every official account, the people around him responded. They called 911, they lowered him to the floor. The occupational therapist, according to those on scene, began chest compressions. First responders arrived. They worked the code.
Do you remember where he was?
It was in the living room.
In the living room? Okay.
On the floor in the living room.
Okay. And what did you see?
Next to a couch. There was 2 healthcare providers there.
Mm-hmm.
One, the male was attempting to do CPR.
Okay. Were you the lead medic or the charge medic or whatever you guys call it?
Lead medic was my partner.
Okay.
But we
interchange
okay. Whatever needs to be done, we make it happen.
Okay. So this guy's doing CPR, one of these medical providers?
Yeah.
Okay, or attempting, as you said?
Yeah.
So then you guys, I assume, take over?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then what happens from there?
We took over. We went through what we do normally. We follow ACLS protocols and county protocols that we do have. I think...
They transported him, and despite everything, Hulk Hogan died. The Clearwater Police Department ruled the death natural. Cardiac arrest. Case closed on the surface.
Footage. So, to catch you up to speed, let's go back to July 24th, 2025. Hulk Hogan. His real name was Terry Bollea. He stopped breathing inside his home in Clearwater, Florida. His wife, Sky Hogan, along with an occupational therapist and a home health aide, reportedly performed CPR until first responders arrived. And despite their efforts, Hulk Hogan, the wrestling legend, died. In the days that followed, speculation spread. Did complications from recent neck surgery play a role? How could someone who appeared to be recovering and in good spirits suddenly stop breathing? Now we're breaking down what investigators documented, what first responders witnessed, and what the newly released records reveal about Hulk Hogan's final.
But the body camera footage tells a more complicated story. And one paramedic, on the record, in his own words, says that the version of events given to investigators does not hold up.
So we know Hulk Hogan stopped breathing. The 911 call came in as a cardiac arrest, and until now, the story has been the same. Those inside the home, including the occupational physical therapist, immediately began CPR the moment they realized Hulk Hogan didn't have a pulse. But a newly released body cam video reveals something investigators noticed, and one paramedic says that version of events doesn't add up. So I want you to listen carefully to what he says.
All right. When you got to the house, what did you see, like once you walked in?
When I I just went up the stairs because I saw the...
But the body camera footage tells a more complicated story. And one paramedic, on the record, in his own words, says that the version of events given to investigators does not hold up. Here is what the record shows. When the first paramedic entered the home, the occupational therapist, a man named Justin McCain, told him he had been performing CPR for 8 minutes. 8 minutes is not a small number. 8 minutes of proper chest compressions on a large man is physically demanding. 8 minutes of effective CPR at clinical depth leaves a mark. That mark, in resuscitation medicine, is called a rib fracture. It is common. It is expected. It is the mechanical consequence of doing compressions correctly on an adult. The paramedic's response, captured on body camera, was immediate and unambiguous.
So I just went upstairs. When I walked into the room, he was on the floor next to a chair. The therapist, the guy in the room, the scrubs, said he was doing CPR for 8 minutes. He was not doing CPR for 8 minutes.
What makes you say that?
Because when I started CPR, I'm the one that broke his ribs. If he was doing CPR, he was doing poor CPR. So just, that's, yeah. But he, in the notes going up, and I think on the radio they said they were having trouble getting him out of the chair to the floor. So we were thinking we were going to have to get him on the ground, but he was on the ground when we got there.
He said the therapist was not doing CPR for 8 minutes. His reasoning was direct. When he started CPR himself, he was the one who broke Hulk Hogan's ribs, not the therapist. Him, the first responder, the person who arrived after the 8-minute window had already closed. He was the one that broke his ribs. Think about what that means. If effective CPR had been performed for 8 consecutive minutes before paramedics arrived, the rib fractures would have already been there. They were not. They happened when the paramedic took over. That is not an opinion. That is physics. That is the clinical logic that made this claim worth documenting in the first place. Now here is the question that reframes everything. If the man responsible for keeping Hulk Hogan alive in those critical pre-arrival minutes was not actually performing adequate compressions, what was happening in that room while the clock ran out? The home health aide's account, also captured on body camera, establishes the timeline from the beginning of that day. She described a man who was declining. He had been placed in diapers between her Monday shift and her Wednesday shift. He was sleeping most of the day. He was in pain. He had been through surgeries that, by her account, left him up and down throughout the night, restless, uncomfortable, unable to sustain any significant period of activity.
Got him in because he had a little big recliner down there. We went down the elevator, got him in the recliner, and that was...
You said he said yoga?
Yeah, that's all he basically ate morning time, just like yoga.
Was he complaining of any pain or anything like that? More than normal?
Not that particular day, but some other days he would complain of his back. So I don't know what the injury had something to do with his back, but I'll just say he had back pain. But he barely was awake. He would always like sleep during the day. I guess the overnight shift would say he would be up and down a lot, which I can vouch because I did a couple overnights, and it was just like whenever he wasn't comfortable, he would want to get up, go downstairs, from downstairs to go back upstairs. So him sleeping in the day was like...
She said on that particular morning, he was fine when she arrived. He brushed his teeth, he ate a yogurt, he was placed in a recliner.
Like he was, moving slow, but like wasn't nothing like I walked into Wednesday. They said he was in diapers when I got there Wednesday. So I guess, I don't know what took place overnight or Monday to Wednesday, but by the time I got there Wednesday, he was in diapers now. So he brushed his teeth, he went downstairs. He didn't normally eat breakfast, so he had a yogurt. I want to say the wife gave him his medicine, his morning medicine, and we set him in a recliner. Probably, I want to say 9:45, occupation got there, occupational therapy got there. They had to order new toilets because I guess his strength wasn't what it normally was. So with us having to order new toilets, I showed occupational therapy, came in, he was breathing. He was breathing when occupational came in. I literally said from probably here to her car is where the distance was from the living room to his office where the bathroom downstairs that he used. I walked occupational therapy into the bathroom to see the toilet. When we came out, he was like, Terry, I'll be over in a minute to get your vitals. He went over, and he was like, I can't get a pulse. And
Terry responded to him when he said that?
no, but he was sleeping. He was sleeping. As soon as I put him in the chair, he went to sleep.
Okay.
So he said, I can't get a pulse on his finger. I also worked at Largo Med, so I was like, sometimes if they cold, you gotta rub it. And so he started rubbing the hand, and he was like, I still can't get a pulse. So that's when me and Sky walked over, and Sky was like, he's not breathing. Okay. We called 911.
Then the occupational therapist arrived. The aide stepped away briefly. She came back. Hogan was unresponsive. The pulse oximeter could not get a reading on his finger. Sky Hogan walked over. Sky said he was not breathing. The 911 call went out. They lowered him to the floor. The aide said the occupational therapist told them how to do CPR and then started compressions himself. He was the one that broke his ribs. That phrase keeps coming back because it is the document that cracks the official timeline open. The aide believed CPR was being performed. The notes going out over the radio indicated they were having trouble getting Hogan off the chair and onto the floor. When the paramedic arrived, Hogan was already on the ground. Whether that transition happened smoothly or with difficulty, whether compressions had been effective or merely attempted, the body camera record does not fully resolve. What it does record is one first responder's clinical assessment, made in real time, that the CPR did not happen the way the therapist described it. Justin McCain, the occupational therapist, was interviewed on scene in the minutes after Hogan was transported. His account, though difficult to hear clearly in the footage, referenced something that would generate significant speculation in the days that followed. He mentioned that during a surgery approximately a month or two prior, the phrenic nerve had been affected. The phrenic nerve controls the diaphragm. It controls breathing. He characterized it as a complete system shutdown and said, in his own words, that he was surprised Hogan had lasted as long as he did.
I witnessed the surgery a month or two ago. They severed the phrenic nerve. He went into complete system shutdown. Entire system. Came home, their home health. I'm an occupational therapist, and he didn't look good. I saw him last week one time. That's like get here. He's been breathing. Guys from all the chest. I was checking out the
Do what?
getting him.
Okay.
He ate very little, a couple of blueberries on this. Was up throughout the night, some medication and sleep, narcotics. And came back to him. I noticed
It is. Yeah, it should be behind that seat.
no rise and fall of the chest. Tried to get pulse, tried to take blood pressure, nothing. She came in, we realized it together, immediately called 911. Got him to the floor, we started compressions. Basically, he was breathing. In any case, when I saw it, I didn't, because he's such a big guy. Yeah. So getting a pulse, getting all that stuff is sometimes difficult. And then when we realized it, obviously we didn't call and get assistance.
That comment, made on scene, led to questions about whether a surgical complication, rather than cardiac failure, was the primary driver of Hogan's death. McCain later walked that back significantly. When investigators followed up with him months later, in November 2025, he acknowledged he had assumed things he was not qualified to conclude.
Caught up with McCamey one more time to get some clarification, and McCamey once again tempered his original comments a bit.
I was talking to the boss who just wants one more question. In the video, you talked about how the phrenic nerve, when it gets severed, it's a hard thing to do.
I assume that, yeah.
Oh, you assume that?
It's not really my effort.
Okay, because basically, like, what we're trying to know is like how you knew that nerve. I'm sorry, I'm leaning on your car.
Sorry.
That nerve is a common thing that can be injured during a surgery, and B, like, how did you arrive at that medical conclusion to say that?
It's written in the medical record.
That it's hard to do?
No, that was separate.
Okay.
I assumed, I don't know.
But I mean, you're not a neurosurgeon.
Not at
right?
all.
Right.
Yeah, or cardiac surgery, yeah.
Didn't go to medical school. You have the degree for the occupational therapy, and
That's it.
nothing beyond that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to keep you.
It's okay. I was also glad you know it's
I understand that.
So I have gotten in trouble before for talking to him. So.
Okay. Well, I think that should be it. All right. Thank you, sir.
It was interesting though. Listen to the interview Bubba Lowe's published the next couple days after that.
Oh, I've heard it.
And the guy mentioned the phrenic nerve himself. He's like, "Oh, it could have been," and I was like, "Huh."
I've heard it.
Yeah. So I shouldn't have said the comment.
Okay. Well.
He was not a surgeon. He was not a physician. He said the information about the phrenic nerve came from Hogan's chart, not from any independent medical analysis. He said plainly that he should not have made the comment. He was the one that broke his ribs. That is not a metaphor. That is the documented record. But it functions as one, because the entire structure of this case rests on a gap between what was claimed and what the physical evidence supports. 8 minutes became the number that either validates a caregiver's response or exposes the limits of it. The paramedic's testimony makes clear which side of that line he believes the evidence falls on. What the record does not contain is a finding of negligence. The Clearwater Police Department concluded their investigation without charges.
Take care, sir.
Thank you.
Hogan's passing was ruled a natural death resulting from cardiac arrest. The Clearwater Police Department praised the Hogan family, including his widow, Sky Daly, his kids, Nick and Brooke Hogan, and an attorney named Kevin Hazlett for, quote, their willingness to allow our investigators access to
Hogan's death was classified as natural. The department publicly acknowledged the cooperation of Sky Hogan, Nick and Brooke Hogan, and the family's legal representatives, stating their willingness to provide access to personal medical information was extremely helpful to the investigation. That is the official resolution. But official resolution and complete transparency are not the same thing. McCain, by his own admission, was told by his employer to stop talking.
No, and I get it. That's what
Yeah, they're not letting us say, they don't want us to say anything else because evidently I spoke too much already.
That's what they told you?
Yeah. Okay. Well, no, in general.
He said investigators were taking statements he did not remember giving. He said TMZ had contacted him multiple times on a single day. He said he was told he had already spoken too much.
I'm just concerned that all this stuff's getting out that shouldn't have been out. It's HIPAA violations on these camps. That's what to be redacted. And it's getting out. TMZ's calling me.
Are they?
Yeah.
That's not getting out. That's all false stuff.
Well, they're saying things that...
in life that the news says.
Yeah, I don't know what's being true. That's what's being
we haven't released any video, I can tell you that.
Still an open investigation.
So whatever you're seeing online is not coming from us.
Wow, you had to prove that was an open investigation.
The footage captures a man who was not trying to hide anything in the initial interview, and who was, by the second interview, clearly constrained by legal and institutional pressure that had nothing to do with investigators, and everything to do with how his employer and the broader medical structure around Hogan's care chose to respond to public scrutiny. The home health aide said she had been with high-profile patients her entire career and had never seen anyone die.
In all my 20 years, I never seen nobody die.
We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart.
The footage captures a man who was not trying to hide anything in the initial interview, and who was, by the second interview, clearly constrained by legal and institutional pressure that had nothing to do with investigators, and everything to do with how his employer and the broader medical structure around Hogan's care chose to respond to public scrutiny. The home health aide said she had been with high-profile patients her entire career and had never seen anyone die.
It's crazy. Yeah. Because not just before it was, but I never had that happen to me. I even working in the hospital, I never saw a patient cold. That was all scary to me. Yeah. Like, that was just a lot. And then to go outside and the street was already filled with people, it was just too much.
That detail matters because it is not a legal detail. It is a human one. The people in that house were not conspirators. They were caregivers who watched a man they had been entrusted to look after stop breathing in front of them. The question the record raises is not whether they wanted him to live. Of course they did. The question is whether what they did in those 8 minutes was sufficient. And one paramedic, on body camera, with no apparent motive to lie, said it was not. There is no indictment here. There is no arrest. There is no civil filing currently in the public record tied to the quality of CPR administered before first responders arrived. What exists is a body camera record, a clinical observation, and a gap between what was claimed and what the physical evidence of broken ribs can and cannot support. The Clearwater Police Department body camera files related to this investigation are part of the publicly accessible records through Florida's public records law. The investigative documentation associated with the death of Terry Bollea on July 24, 2025, can be requested through the Clearwater Police Department directly. The footage exists, the claims are in it, the timeline is in it, the paramedics' words are in it. Here is the question for the comments. Based on what the paramedic documented on scene, do you think the quality of CPR performed before first responders arrived should have triggered a formal review by the State Medical Licensing Board? Or does the natural death ruling close that door entirely? If evidence-first casework is what you come here for, like this video, share it with someone who follows true crime, subscribe to The Darkest Crimes, and turn on notifications. Every case we cover starts with the document and goes wherever the record leads. We will see you in the next one.